Millennials were raised to believe that they followed the path already built by their forefathers, that it would pay off eventually. Gen Z wasn't even sold this faithful message. We were just told how shitty everything is and how badly we should feel about it all. Well, both generations are now fully into adulthood and are realizing the given path is paved in dog shit and corruption. So in this video, let's talk about all the lies we were sold, with many inflated price tags attached, as well as hear some perspectives from all generations on this matter. And if you've personally been enjoying my daily doomer commentaries around here on the page, feel free to like, comment your thoughts, opinions below, and subscribe to see my daily videos right here on the channel. And a huge shout out to all you guys who've been checking out those links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin this shit show.
No one talks about how millennials and Gen Zs can't afford homes, yet generations before didn't have European vacation, streaming services, nails every month, concerts, lattes, appointments, wardrobe, cosmetics, and dinner every single week. This is the biggest misconception plaguing the people under 40 in this country. The reason they can't afford homes is because homes in the past 5 years went from $250,000 to $420,000. In 2019, you only needed $50,000 in salary to qualify. Now, in most cases, you need $120,000. So you got to think about the average millennial and Gen Zer. They have $60,000 of student loan debt, car and credit cards, and they're trying to save $60,000 more for a down payment on a house. That is a huge feat for someone making 58 grand a year with these high rent prices and high grocery prices. So even if they took out all this fun and saved $10,000 a year, it would still take them 12 years to pay off that debt and save for a house. So if they know it's going to take 10, 12, 15 years to do this now, they're going to sacrifice in smaller increments. So if a millennial is lucky enough, which many don't, to have an extra $500 at the end of the month, they'll put $300 towards their debt, but they're going to spend the other $200 on brunch and a Taylor Swift concert. There are going to be some millennials and Gen Zers who overspend, but for 90% of people under 40 with kids and college debt, they can't afford a home because the interest rate and home prices are through the roof, not because of lattes and condos.
Oh, the good old excuse that young people constantly hear that if you just stop buying those $5 coffees every day and if you just stopped going on those vacation trips twice a year, maybe you'll be able to afford a home and build a family and not be broke all the time, 24/7, living paycheck to paycheck like everybody else you know. But in reality, the majority of people, at least that I know, they haven't bought a $5 coffee in a while. It's not really in the budget. A vacation? What's that? I've never really been on one pretty much any time in my life. I'm almost 25. I still never really been on a real vacation, despite maybe like camping at a campground 2 hours away from my house. I've never been on a plane really, so there's really no trips involved in the way that, you know, the boomers would fly to Florida for half the year once winter comes, because I have family members who are retired who do that. Well, you know, on my side of my family doesn't really talk to me, but either way, in terms of like money, it's really crazy to think how young people constantly get gaslighted into the economic system right now, and how, like, you know, it's always our fault, even though I think that many old people are starting to face the consequences of the reality that their money's not stretching as far either. The dollar that all of us have, it's not really going as far as it used to be. Now, yeah, there's all these different ways to make it now. We got technology and electronics and God, the internet. That's great, isn't it? I do love it myself, but it doesn't really matter how much dollars you make if that said dollar does not stretch as far. So putting that into perspective, I think many people kind of overlook that, you know, whole thing.
You know, listen, every generation comes and wants to do better than their parents did. Every generation. But I'm sorry, if you only want to work 4 hours, it's going to be harder for you to get a house.
Whoopi Goldberg, let me help you here. The real reason why many millennials cannot afford to have children or buy a home is because your generation effed up the economy and handed it to us on a not-so-silver platter. For an example, let's take 1993, the year I was born. A modest home that cost $100,000 in 1993 now costs a whopping $225,000. And no, wages have not kept up with that rate of inflation. So millennials are not lazy. In fact, they are having to work more hours than your generation did to afford basic housing. And the cost of childcare has nearly tripled since the 90s. So us millennials are up against a completely unfair economy and having to work harder to attain and maintain the American dream.
I always personally thought that Whoopi Goldberg was kind of, you know, in her head too much. She's always kind of annoying in my opinion. I mean, I don't really, you know, ever have many opinions on talk show hosts, celebrities or whatever, but she's been literally a big time major celebrity for the entirety of my life. I'm 25, probably longer than the time I've been alive. And she's just so ungrateful, the way she talks about reality. Talking about 4 hours a week. Whoopi, you sit on a talk show where you say whatever you want, usually shitty takes, and you just get applauded for it and probably get paid bigger checks than I could ever see in my lifetime. So it's hard for people really watching your show to really take you seriously. But I do understand what that show is, you know, the audience who watches that show. They probably eat it all up. But either way, in terms of the economic standpoint of the difference between, you know, the 90s and the 2020s, yeah, buying a home's it's not the same. It's not just don't buy your $5 coffee anymore. It's get 17 jobs, don't have a kid, and maybe, you know, sell your body online. That's kind of the way people get around these days. Kind of the only really way out. And then, you know, we still get shamed for doing what we got to do. So it's kind of a crazy world we're living in right now. I am Gen Z, but I feel like Gen Z millennials are in a very similar boat. And I'm really curious how Gen Alpha will feel once they reach this adult age. Not that I want to grow any older anytime soon. I'm trying to get all this time I can for myself. I guess I am selfish in that terms. I want to live as long as I can in this life. I'll be selfish about that all I can. But it is very interesting to think how some of these people who are older just don't really get it, especially people who have had money for so long. They're so out of touch, where it's like, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you've had money and if you've been used to that money, everybody gets accustomed to what they have way quicker than they might want to believe. And it's just a sad reality that this is the message getting pushed to the majority of the world, and just we're just getting gaslit into believing it's our fault that a society is outpriced for our budgets.
50% of millennials who make $100,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't feel bad for them. They want to have a Rolex. They want to drive a nice car. I get
Precisely.
it. But they don't. It's called lifestyle creep. The more money you make, the more you feel like, well, I deserve to have a nicer car. I'm working hard. I deserve to move into a nicer area. Yeah. I deserve to go on vacation to Mykonos this summer. All my friends are going to Ibiza. You know, so
but is that the real
make the right decision?
Right. Surprisingly, believe it or not, I actually have kind of like a mixed take on this opinion right here, because fair enough, making $100K a year if you're a single individual, only living alone by yourself, male or female, doesn't matter how old you are, that should be enough to get by in most cities, I would say. Unless you're like in like New York or LA and you're living in the most expensive place, which again, slightly your fault. I get it if you're raised and born there, you want to be around family and your upbringing, but still, you can move. Just like everybody else has to for their cost of living. That's understandable. But if you're like the average family just trying to, you know, support yourself, both people bring in $100K together, then you have a couple of kids, add in daycare costs. I've seen daycare costs, many videos, even in my family, I've experienced seeing actual bills. I've reached up to $5,000 a month if, you know, you both want to work and you can't be a stay-at-home mom, or you can't be a stay-at-home dad, or have anybody stay at home and watch the kids, you know, for a cheaper reduced cost. You're going to be paying crazy amounts out of pocket for daycare, not including of how much it costs to raise a kid. And then if you want to enjoy anything or give them an actual childhood, the similar way that you probably had for a much reduced cost back when you were growing up, that's going to cost you way more than you're probably that you probably were intending on paying when you initially popped these suckers out. So when you really break it down, I think it like $100K a year, depending on your lifestyle, depending on where you live. I know many flyover states, that's still a lot, but in a lot of the top 10, 15 major cities and the top 10 states, that's probably not really going as far. If you want to live in a city, if you want to have transportation, if you want to have, you know, the lifestyle that you probably deserve to live. Also, don't you just love when people like this guy wearing a Rolex, telling you how you don't deserve a Rolex? I understand it is a timepiece. It's expensive for a reason. You really shouldn't be buying things outside your tax bracket. You don't, you know, maybe a poor person doesn't deserve a Lambo. But I don't really think that's how money works. And I don't really think that we should just automatically see somebody who's struggling and assume like, well, they must have blew all their money. Maybe they had a medical surgery. Maybe they had somebody pass and they had to pay for like the different funeral costs and the different funeral fees. Maybe they have a bunch of stuff going on in their life and they're really behind right now. Maybe their college debt's eating them up and their interest percentages outweighing even how much they're paying their monthly payment. It's just growing and growing and growing, so they can't never really get ahead. You never really know what people are going through in each individual situation. So I love the people who have, again, like I've said, who have had money for longer than even I've probably been alive, judging people who have never even seen a paycheck as big as they get every other week. You know, so it's just kind of ironically crazy when you really put that into perspective of the people that have the most push to really the different ideas, different knowledge, and different things getting pushed in the modern media. They're so out of touch, and almost all of them have been out of touch for so long. That's why I kind of like the rise of the social media stuff. It gives more people with an actual foot in the game that actually have been experienced with it and weren't just kind of, you know, been so out of touch for so long. They actually get to say their piece. We get to be more relatable and finally find little groups, build little, you know, communities that actually are in the loop, you know, because it definitely is hard to find those types of people. But also, I don't really know how I feel about this whole podcast, the whole PBD thing. I know they kind of grew up with like insurance scammy stuff. I don't really know. I just don't really like people who just fully make their entire media like one perspective. Like they're a conservative podcast, they're a liberal podcast. Like, dude, just be yourself. You are the product. Just like, you know, once I realized like people watch my channel, yeah, they want to do the videos, but they watch it for me. Just Josh, be yourself. So the sooner I started being myself, one, the better my content got. Two, the more my audience started like relating to my content. And three, the better type of people I want watching my content anyway. Like I want people that rock with me for me, not just for the certain topics I spew. Because what if you change your opinion? What if, you know, things change? I mean, I'm always down to learn and change my views and perspectives on the world. So either way, I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions regarding all of this. So let me know down below in the comments. Yeah, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video about how millennials are screwed. They're pretty much the most, you know, bent over backwards generation. Gen Z right behind them, and then Gen Alpha following along, and whatever's coming after that. Thanks, Boomers. Thanks, Gen Xers. Hope that vacation home in Florida is good. I hope the beach house is, you know, going great tonight, because I'm trying to scrape a couple change together for some ramen noodles. I'm just joking. I love everybody. I just love to, you know, stir the stew. I love to, you know, spit in the water and tell people I didn't. I'm not sure what I'm saying. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoy all the content. You guys have been going crazy lately with I've been doing the consistent uploads. You guys have been crazy with the support, so I definitely want to appreciate that. Feel free to leave all your thoughts and opinions down below. Just be respectful. I read all the comments, and I love to see all the different debates. You guys are super cool in there. And shout out everybody who checks out those links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to check out other parts of my content, and also to support me and my channel. This is one of the best ways to do so. So huge shout out to you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.